Years earlier, there were two brothers that were born with incredible powers. They had super strength, speed, and were bulletproof too. But as kids, they were not fully able to control their powers, and they accidentally hurt people. This made the people of the city fearful of them, and one night the people decided to kill them. That night, they burned the homes of the kids and killed both their parents, but the brothers survived the fire. As they grew into adulthood, the two brothers adopted very different values. Samaritan wanted to fight for justice and help people, but Nemesis was totally different. After his parents' death, he grew to hate people, and that hate only grew with time. This created a massive friction between the brothers and often found themselves battling each other. Nemesis decides to burn down the whole city to get revenge for his parents' death. He forges a special hammer that was forged with his hate and anger, which will be able to take down anyone that is against him, including Samaritan. That night, Nemesis gets ready to blow up the power plant, but Samaritan comes to stop him. An intense fight ensues, which Nemesis starts to win thanks to his hammer, but that doesn't last long as a sudden explosion kills both of them. However, many people believe Samaritan survived the explosion because the police only found one corpse with the Nemesis mask. If the theory is true, Samaritan has chosen to hide and has not been seen for the last 25 years. In the present time, we are introduced to a young boy named Sam, who is hearing theories about Samaritan. Sam is one of the people that believes Samaritan is alive and gathers evidence and talks to other people about it. Sam lives with his single mom Tiffany in a bad neighborhood. Tiffany works hard, but she still struggles to support Sam. Sam meets up with his friend Jace to steal some copper wires from an abandoned building. They then sell it for $40. But before they could leave, a teenage boy named Reza corners them. He tells them that Cyrus, who is that gang leader in the neighborhood, wants them to get some boxes and they want their help. Jace refuses, but Sam agrees to do it. They then go to a store and tell him to distract the owner so they could steal the boxes. Sam is hesitant at first, but he does what he is told. He distracts the owner, and Reza and his men steal the boxes. But when they return to their lair and open the box, it is revealed that they stole the wrong boxes. Reza then tries to blame Sam, but Sam fights back. Cyrus then sees the commotion and is amazed by Sam's courage. He then talks to him directly and gives him $200 for doing the job. Cyrus then notices Sam carrying a drawing of Samaritan and tells him that he is a fan of Nemesis. He says that Samaritan was just a cop that didn't care about people like them, but Nemesis wanted to take the system down, which is what Cyrus is planning to do. The next morning, Sam runs into Reza and his friends. Reza accuses of him taking his cut of his money and asks for the $100. Sam had already given the money to his mom, so he decides to run away. Reza then chases him down and catches him in front of his apartment. He then tells him his mom is going to find her dead boy and gets ready to beat him up. But Joe, who lives in the next building, stops the fight. Reza and his men then try to fight him, but he easily beats them up. Reza even tries to stab him, but Joe bends the knife with just his hand. Sam is shocked to see Joe's strength, and he suspects that he is the long-lost Samaritan. Later that day, Sam spies on Joe from his window, and he sees that Joe has burn marks all over Joe's back. This made him even more convinced that Joe was the legend he had been looking for all this time. Meanwhile, Cyrus and his girlfriend Syl break into a police station and steal Nemesis's mask and his hammer, and just as Cyrus holds the hammer, Joe feels uneasy feeling. The next day, Sam breaks into Joe's home while he was not home and looks around. He finds an article about Samaritan in a clipping book and steals it. But later that day, Joe directly comes to Sam's house and informs Tiffany that he stole his book. Tiffany then makes Sam return the book. The next day, when Sam meets with Joe, he asks why Joe is collecting so many articles about Samaritan. Joe replied that he did that because he was a fan of Samaritan like Sam. He denies being Samaritan, but as he was walking on the street, he gets run over by Reza's car, who intentionally hit him to get revenge. Sam rushes to help Joe, who should be dead, but Joe gets up and recovers all the bones that had been crushed from the hit. Joe and Sam then rush to his apartment, and Joe takes a cold shower to cool himself up. He explains that every time he gets hurt, his body produces heat, and if he doesn't cool down, his heart will explode. Later that night, Cyrus gathers all his followers and announces that Nemesis has returned. His followers then cheer and create chaos in the city. The next day, Joe hears about the return of Nemesis from the news. He is shocked and angry that someone is impersonating Nemesis, but decides to just ignore the news. He later meets up with Sam and he teaches him how to fight. Sam's dad used to teach him before he passed away, so he is actually good at it. Joe also offers to fix Sam's broken watch, which was a gift from his dad. Later, while walking home, Sam runs into Cyrus. He tells him he has a job for him, and Sam goes into his car. Cyrus gives a simple job, which is to whistle when he sees the police coming, but Sam can't actually whistle. and while the two are talking, Cyrus gets busted by cops, but he bribes them and they leave him alone. Later that day, Sam sees Cyrus's men bringing in a police officer into the warehouse. He then follows them and hides in a corner to see what is going on. The police was a guy that took a bribe from Cyrus to look away, but when he found out that Cyrus wants to blow up the power plant, he tried to stop them. Cyrus's girlfriend brings out a blowtorch and gets ready to burn the cop, and he starts begging Cyrus to let him go and promises to never come back. Cyrus then reconsiders and agrees to release the cop. The cop is grateful, but as he starts walking away, Cyrus takes out his gun and shoots him in the back, killing him. Sam, who saw all that, felt very scared and intended to run away from the warehouse. But as he was about to leave, he runs into Reza and his friends. They are beating up Jace, so he gets into a fight with them and lets Jace escape. Unfortunately for him, Reza beats him up until he is unconscious. But as they are taking him back, they see Joe and they run away. Joe then takes Sam to the hospital, and Sam gets some bandages. Meanwhile, Reza tells Cyrus about Joe. He tells him that they ran him over, but now he is fully okay. Cyrus then sends his men to capture the man for him. The next morning, Cyrus's men follow Joe while he is going to work. He notices he is being followed, so he leads them into an alleyway and beats them up, but one of the guys throws a bomb at him. Joe then grabs a little girl who was in the area, and he covers her from the blast by flipping a car and blocking the bomb. The girl thanks him, but when Joe turns around, he sees that everyone in the area is recording him. The clip quickly gets on the news and Joe's identity is uncovered. Sam also sees the news and visits him in his home. He then tells him about Cyrus's plan and tells him that he needs to stop Cyrus, but Joe refuses and yells at Sam to go home. The next morning, Sam sneaks back into Joe's house to get his watch, but as he is looking, Cyrus and his men suddenly came into the apartment too. Sam then rushes to his home and warns Tiffany about Cyrus, and he tells her to run away. But just before they can go out, they get captured by Cyrus. Cyrus then takes Sam, as he plans to use him as bait to get Joe. Later that day, we see Joe waiting at a train station, but he remembers he hasn't given Sam his watch, so he goes to Sam's home to return it. He finds Tiffany, and she tells him what happened. Meanwhile, Cyrus's men blow up the power plant, which takes out all the electricity in the city. At the same time, Joe crashes a garbage truck into Cyrus's warehouse and busts in. Cyrus then orders his men to kill Joe, but Joe is too powerful for them. He starts taking out everyone that comes after him. Joe then asks Cyrus to release Sam, and in turn they will have a one-on-one duel. Cyrus refuses by saying that he wants Sam to witness his hero get destroyed. Cyrus then hits Joe with the hammer, but Joe doesn't fight back. Cyrus then says, "The good guy will die today," which triggers a flashback. We are taken to the day when Samaritan and Nemesis were fighting. Samaritan was about to fail into the fire, and Nemesis tries to save him, but he was too late. This reveals that Joe is actually Nemesis. He reveals this to Cyrus, and Cyrus is immediately filled with fear. Suddenly, an explosion that came from Joe's garbage truck kills most of Cyrus's men. Cyrus manages to run away and takes Sam with him. Joe then takes out the rest of Cyrus's men and chases after them. He finds Sam cuffed to a pole and he drops his hammer to release him, but then Cyrus comes from behind and hits him with the hammer. The two then get into another fight, but this time Cyrus have the upper hand. Joe is hanging from a ledge and Cyrus gets ready to hit him into the fire, but in that moment Sam manages to break free and attacks Cyrus. This gives Joe a chance to get back up, and he restrains Joe by bending the hammer on his body. He then picks him up and throws him into the fire. Joe then falls down as his body starts to heat up immensely. Sam then breaks a tap which releases water that cools down Joe. Joe fully recovers, but he sees that the building is going down, so grabs Sam and jumps into a safer building. Both of them are safe now, and Sam asks if Joe is really Nemesis. Joe confirms, and reveals that after his brother's death, he felt guilty and lived in isolation. Sam then says he is a good person now and that he can show himself to the people, but Joe tells him to be a good person and runs away just as reporters are coming in. Sam is then surrounded by the media, and they ask him who saved him. He then says that Samaritan saved him, and the movie ends as the people all around the area chant Samaritan's name, and we see Joe walk off smiling. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.